QRSQuantronResonanceSystems.com.
Good evening, everybody. I know that there may be quite a number of new people on the line, and so what I'd like to do is to reserve quite a bit of time for questions. What I want to start out with, though, is something that we haven't touched much on in terms of magnetics and what magnetics may be able to do, and that is its relationship or its use for acupuncture purposes. I started originally looking into magnetic fields as a therapeutic system probably around 1991. And the reason I did is because I wanted to find a way to do acupuncture without needles. And I knew that in the Orient, people were using magnetics for this purpose. And began my quest, if you will, and my journey with magnetics really because of that. And so I started using magnets, specifically designed magnets for acupuncture purposes, and then over time evolved as more devices became available and more products became available. I began to use them for a lot of other purposes. I've always used them since then with specific applications with acupuncture, but have always maintained in the back of my mind that magnetic fields are often pretty weak, and even when they are very weak, they still can be very active in their effects on the body. And I've never really been able to adequately explain why they can produce such rapid effect. And one of the things I kept coming back to is that probably one of the reasons would be that it works through the acupuncture system. For those of you who are familiar with electrodermal screening, or the bowl technique, or other approaches to measuring the energy of the acupuncture systems, you may have tried the QRS alongside of that system. What we have found is that if you do a measurement on a machine, say for example called the MSA, with which I'm probably the most familiar, is that you will often have a number of meridians that are abnormal, that are out of balance, both in terms of showing excess or in terms of showing deficiency. And what's always amazed me is that after a simple 8-minute treatment on a QRS, even at medium-level settings, you can significantly clean out the abnormalities that are seen during that first pass evaluation, and especially if you do the MSA following the magnetics treatment. What you're left with then is probably some amount of what I would call deeper tissue or deeper meridian imbalance. So at the first pass, what happens is that the meridians of the body are much like power lines. And Dr. Robert Becker and a woman called Maria Reichmanis, who worked with him, back in the 70s established that the acupuncture system, maybe other things, but one of the things that it certainly was a DC current system. Many other acupuncturists have also described what's called the tendinomuscular system, and that basically is the meridian system producing a magnetic field or an electromagnetic field around each meridian. The stronger the meridian, or the stronger the energy flows in the meridian at a given point along the body or along the meridian, the wider the net of the electromagnetic field that it casts. And if you know, with research done with physics and just basic principles of physics and engineering, a power line, any conducting medium like a power line, will cast an electromagnetic field away from itself. That's called the right-hand rule. And depending on the strength of the field, the casting of that field, the width of the dispersion of the magnetic field around that flow of energy can be pretty wide. What happens in the body, practically speaking, is that system is very superficial. It forms like a shield or a barrier against noxious energies that enter into the system and then cause the system to fail at certain points. And where one of the theories of acupuncture, at least, is from a quantum physics perspective, wherever you have a failure in the meridian or points in the meridian, blockages, you can actually have penetration through that shield of either UV or other quantum energies that could, again, cause further damage to the body. Some people believe, in fact, that with the artificial energies that are now pervasive in our environment, from cell phones, computer terminals, the wiring in homes, the electrical energies given off by our cars, microwaves in the environment, etc., all of that kind of energy can penetrate this shield that normally exists, that's created by the acupuncture system. So what we found with the MSA is that you can knock out a lot of the noise that's in that shield, that superficial energy system, by a simple treatment with the QRS. Then what you're left with then, as I said, is probably the deeper levels of imbalance that exist in the body, and then you could specifically target the treatments in the body for that. I would strongly suggest that if you want to enhance the therapeutic benefit that we can achieve with the QRS, that you don't know acupuncture, and I obviously recommend that you could learn it more seriously, although if you want to be an acupuncturist, it could take you 3 years of training. But everybody who's doing this kind of work could probably benefit by purchasing a book on acupressure. One of the books that I normally recommend is Acupressure's Potent Point. If you want to get more information on it, you can contact Christina or something that can get that for you. But if you do a very basic, superficial self-education on acupressure points, the acupressure points typically are the most powerful points in the body. And by having some of that basic understanding of acupressure, you can be very effective. You can be much more effective with the way that you use the QRS. Let's go over some examples. Let's say you have a distal neuritis of unknown etiology. One of the points that can be treated or used to treat that condition would be the Kidney Meridian. Well, the Kidney Meridian comes up from the sole of the feet up the sides of the legs, and then goes up and merges with other meridians in the body. When you lay on the QRS, you are simultaneously treating all the meridians of the body. Now, you can focus the treatment with the pillow to specific areas of the body where you can particularly stimulate the meridian system. And say, if you want to treat the Kidney Meridian, what you would do is to use the pillow along the soles of the feet. If you're trying to stimulate the bladder meridian, and by the way, when you lay on the QRS on your back, which is what I typically do, you're getting a significant amount of stimulation of the bladder meridian, which is along the back. All the paraspinal muscles are controlled by the bladder meridian. So every time you lay on the QRS, you automatically, never mind by relaxing muscle, which is one of the principal actions of magnetic fields directly, you will indirectly also help to improve the flow of energy through those muscles by laying on your back and getting a QRS treatment. If you have fibromyalgia, one of the major meridian systems that is used to treat fibromyalgia is in fact the bladder meridian. And as I mentioned, that goes along the back. So it's no surprise that we have found in a couple of studies done with static magnets at least, that fibromyalgia can be significantly improved by magnetics. Similar sorts of research in Europe has found that pulse magnetic fields do the same thing. And generally speaking, where there's a benefit with static magnetic fields, there will almost always be a similar benefit with pulse magnetic fields. One of the benefits of the QRS is that it balances the fields, and so you actually get a polarity rebalancing every 2 minutes during an 8-minute treatment. So there are 4 sets of back and forth in terms of the polarities, and so the body does not only get one polarity and rebalance itself significantly. When you look at treating pain, there are many meridians that are used to treat pain. The gallbladder meridian, the stomach meridian, the spleen meridian, the liver meridian. When you use the QRS, you are really simultaneously actually treating all this to the meridian. And again, if you wanted to treat one in particular, or if you know where there's an area of blockage, for example, with a scar in the skin, that scar can often block the flow of meridian energy, and you can use the pillow to treat right over that area. For those of you who don't know, the pillow and the QRS mat has the coil around the edges of the mattress. So if you wanted to maximize the penetration of the field into a specific meridian or into a specific part of the body, then you can use the pillow around its edges and make sure that the edge of the pillow specifically touches over that point or that local area or that meridian, and then you'll maximize the benefit that you get. One of the benefits of acupuncture is that it rebalances the energy systems of the body through its circadian clock. Many of the rhythms of the body, the hormonal rhythms, the chemical rhythms, the sleep cycle, all of these are on a clock, on an automatic clock. And if you